My name is Steve Rogers, and this video is about painting dark reflections in watercolor as well as how to deal with darks in general. It's an excerpt from a workshop I did for the Southwestern Watercolor Society in Dallas, Texas, and I sure appreciate their enthusiasm and talent. Thank you.
Steve, do you have to remember to leave white as far as the reflection there from the boat in the water?
Yeah, I've got that. This is where the reflection is.
Okay.
Okay. Got a bigger brush here.
Let me apologize for the silence during the time that I'm painting the darks in the water. I'm pretty much right-brained at this point, and there'll be plenty of explanation after I'm through doing that. So if you guys have a little patience, that would be terrific.
Okay.
So you're basically loosely painting it upside down now.
Yeah, that's a good way of explaining it. Okay.
See, is that basically just a really dark green?
You betcha. Really dark. Yeah, it's there is. Just finish that up. Yeah, it is. There is French ultramarine, that Quinn gold, and there is also Prussian blue in there. So, yeah, real dark. It doesn't.
And it's the same color, right, on the other side. It's just lighter.
Well, it's drying, so it dries more more neutral and lighter. It's just the nature of watercolor. I kind of like it to be really strong, but you know, even though I'm blasting it in there, it still manages to, and you know, probably mellows out. It's probably better that it does than if it wanted to do what I was doing, but. Let this rest a little bit. What I need to get in here now, after this dries, is to get in here with some of this manganese in some of these areas in here, because that's what that's actually going to be. That's the reason that that's left. It seemed like it's, you know, sometimes I'll do it where I put in the underwash, the lighter wash first, and then carve around it, and other times I'll do it the opposite of that. So, you know, it's just whatever seems to work, you know, whatever I think is going to work best at the time, or whatever seems to, you know, be most manageable, or just whatever I kind of end up doing. So this would reflect kind of all of this stuff up here. And this up here would do that. The boat is in here. And this is more sky reflecting in here. Okay, so. That's kind of, it is what it is.
Dave, I was going to ask you about that green in the under the boat there, that green in the middle. It doesn't have to reflect what you see exactly.
No, I'm just thinking, you know, what's underneath the canopy, what, you know, this is going to be right around here is going to be, you know, this kind of a color at some point. But yeah, you want it to, I think you need it to be kind of mellow. You know, what you don't want to do, at least that I've found that sometimes can be a real issue, is you don't want to reflect real warm, hot colors, you know, yellows and browns and stuff in water, especially in blue water, because it's so attention getting that it you know, you end up spending half the time, you know, trying to cover it up. At least that's what I found.
That's a good thought. I wondered. And then I think I can't get over how dark you get right away. I just can't. I mean, I've been painting for 40 years and I can't get that dark.
It's a question of using a lot of pigment, you know, but also, you know, keeping it.
I mean, I'm impressed that your students are getting that dark.
They are, yeah, absolutely.
I always thought I got dark because I was just stupid and wouldn't go light enough. So actually, I'm kind of happy that at least he goes pretty dark. So.
Well, I'll tell you what, I used to, you know, like, I think when I was, you know, first trying to be the next Andrew Wyeth, I think everybody went through that phase. I didn't really understand watercolor, and I thought, well, the more dark pigment you put on, you know, the darker it gets. But there's a point of no return where it gets, you know, so dark that it's just, it doesn't, there's no light coming through. The paper isn't coming through at all. You can get that dark in areas that are kind of more of an accent, but you know, you can't just paste color, you can't just paste pigment down and expect it to, you know, to look good. You need to be a little adroit at doing that. And actually, if you look at, I know Janet and I both taught at Howard Pyle's studio in Wilmington, Delaware, and it is where N.C. Wyeth, you know, was one of the students, I guess, and you know, because Howard Pyle was the great American illustrator, and then I think probably N.C. picked up the mantle at some point. And they were going to demolish his studio, which is a really cool studio. You know, there's several buildings and big high ceilings, you know, with inside out, you know, there's a ship's stern in it, and there is you know, clapboard on the inside, so it's like you're inside looking out, or it's like you're being outside but you're inside. And anyway, that at some point they bring out it's I think that they keep it to like 27 or 28 29 women, and you know, so that's their limitation, and it's whatever the original group was, that was the number. And so they jury in, you know, the new members. And I think, I got a feeling that the reason that they were able to salvage this is that, you know, there were more than a few DuPonts involved in you know, in some of this. So anyway, at some point in the, you know, when you eat lunch there, they serve it with crystal and china and silver. And, you know, it's a really nice, it's not like your usual workshop. And they bring out, they've got a vault, or they've got a stave or something. They've got a Wyeth that he did, and Andrew Wyeth did as a demo. And actually the gal that was, you know, kind of our workshop person was a docent in the Brandywine Museum, and managed, you know, it was never signed, and she managed to go around Betsy and get Wyeth to actually sign it. So, but it's not, he didn't really have a very good color sense, you know, with colorful stuff. When he was first doing this, it was like the colors were kind of garish and over the top. So you could see where he, you know, he found his path, you know, with the grays and the muted. There's beautiful muted color in his work, you know, especially, you know, if you get up close and actually look at it, you know, and not see it in a reproduction. But at first, it's kind of neat to see that he didn't really have it together, you know, with color, and you know, so it wasn't like he suddenly blossomed out as this great artist, even though he grew up, with NC and that whole
But he
deal.
had that strong value,
He did, and that's where I, get the strong value thing, because, I morphed into more color, but I always thought, well, gee, you need to play the full keyboard on the piano of color and value. And I always think of it, I'm not sure if Charles Reed said this or not, but I always think of it as color value. The two are melded together. It's not, one is not separate from the other.
Steve, could I ask you about it? See that orange roof there? And so you didn't put that into the reflection.
No,
I don't think it would look good.
It would look horrible.
It'll look horrible, yeah.
And I always, remember what I said, guys, about the duck's eye view. That you don't see everything flat on. It's not a mirror image. It's, the image that we see is a reflection of us. Say we're on in this case on another boat, and we're looking down, the water is reflecting up, basically. It's not, in fact, there was a friend of ours is a photographer, and they went to Cinque Terre in the Ligurian coast in Italy, and there was a photograph that appeared, of one of the 5 villages, Manarola or one of them, and our friend Dave looked at it and thought, well, this is just Photoshop. They have taken, the upper part and just flipped it upside down and messed with it a little bit and acted as though that was, an actual image of it. And it wasn't, because, the water reflection is going to see more up, and we're going to see more directly at something. So a roof like this that would be a slanted roof, you really might not see a lot of it in the water. There's a chance that you wouldn't see it. So, and actually with the tarp, you wouldn't see some of the tarp. You wouldn't necessarily see, in fact, you wouldn't see any of the stuff in the boat if it was back a ways.
That's interesting.
So that's my justification for
I like that.
for simplifying it. Yeah.
Are you going to do the rigging also? What are you going to do there?
I could do that. I didn't want to, stress doing all the little detail of this at this point. I wanted to get into, doing the reflection so you guys would see that. I can noodle around with it, but it's the same, it's the same kind of issue that I did with the other boat.
Yeah, I have one question about your rigging. So when you're in the dark section, you left a white place where the cables go up. So do you leave that white and then switch as soon as it goes into the sky? Do you switch to black or dark so that it gets...
It's the same idea as the light against dark,
right,
and dark against light, only on a smaller scale.
Right.
So as it gets up here, and I've actually toned some of these
right,
were
yeah.
kind of kicked them down a little ways. There wouldn't be soup, and you want variety again. You'd want some of them to be, more dominant because there's more, these are shrouds that, that do more to support the mast. There's a head stay that, is probably, and some of these are just, things to, actually put probably in this case to, to hold this tarp up. So they're not really dominant lines. This is, coming to the boom here. So it's probably not gonna, require the same amount of, so I would probably, with a little bit of knowledge, try to vary how intense or how heavy those lines are. But, the basic underlying idea from the design quality is you want repetition of these things, but don't go in there and just make marks with the same value and same dimension and same color temperature. Try and get some variety in there. Like here with the mast, this is more of a ochre sienna kind of color. This is more of a burnt sienna. I mean, there's other colors in there, But, you know, so it's not, and in the actual image, they're probably exactly the same color. But I just want, you know, for the purpose of the painting to be, you know, to give some variety to that. I'm also not putting any of that, the masts down in the water. That, you know, there's not a lot of opportunity for it. And it just, I've done, some of these, I've done this painting before, and I've done things that I didn't like. And, you know, so I think there's a great value in painting, not necessarily the same painting, but painting the same genre, the same subject. So like if you go, you know, to Greece or someplace and you bring back material, and maybe you go a couple times, or if it's local, you go to, you know, like Houston or someplace where there are boats, or and you do like a series, you know, where so you go for like a couple years or whatever. And I think as you paint more and more of the same similar type of stuff, you become more familiar with it and learn, you know, from what works and what doesn't work.
Would you be able to throw a few riggers in there, lines, or not?
Oh, I can probably. I just, what I was thinking is, you know, to get to, you know, to do more critique on their paintings.
Okay.
Actually, what I was waiting for is this to dry, and I'm going to do, you know, this blue here. Sometimes you know, this, you know,
Maybe you don't need to.
Big washes that are kind of interesting. They develop better if you don't hit them with a dryer right away, like the sky and some of that. You know, it gets a chance to granulate if it's granulating color, or maybe a little blossom develops here and there. And that, I like that. It looks painterly, and it looks like, you know, more like the outcome that I like to see in a painting. But let me dry this pretty well right now, because I want to do some critique. I don't want to noodle the rest of this and, you know, act like I'm finishing the painting. I'd rather, you know, do some critique with you guys, and also do that design lesson before we run out of time. Let me clean up a little bit on this palette first. I wanted to get enough done that you know, I wasn't giving you the wrong impression that, oh, you can get away with doing the reflection before you do the boat. In my case, I sort of know what I can get away with not doing, but it's pretty much, I've finished almost all of it, except, you know, if I was going to show the rigging in the water, I would do it. You know, I would do it up there first, and be sure I had that done, so I'd kind of have an idea of, you know, what should reflect.
Steve,
Yeah.
I had a question. I know I'm not really one of the students, but I have so much trouble with dark that it seems like when you put a dark in, you don't mess around with it. You find your color and put it down. Is that, I mean, I find I have trouble when I mess around in darks.
Yeah, the trick to darks, if there's sometimes that you have to put them over, something that's an underlying color, but the optimum way to treat a dark is to put it down over white paper. If it's a large enough dark, that's a possibility and a way to do it. You're not looking necessarily, I've said this before, for the perfect color, because you don't want a monochromatic color. And your darks can be, they can be all sorts of color. They can be, I'm sort of pointing, but, I've got the other thing on now, the other camera on, but they can be, really warm darks, almost, maroon darks. They can be blue darks. They can be brownish darks. They can be green darks. Anything really besides a dark yellow. That doesn't really, you can't really go there. And so, you don't have to be concerned about having the perfect dark color to start with. So you just put something down and, migrate from whatever color that you want. Color change in the darks as much as you do in other areas of the painting. So you need to, migrate around with whatever color it is. It can change from a blue to a violet to a maroon or something if within a given area. And, that's a good thing. It's not like you're indecisive about the color. It's what it's what the best way to do it. But then you don't screw with it. You put it down and you don't go, oh, gee, I really don't like that color. Let me mess around with it. Because the more you disturb the color, the more you manipulate it, especially the darks are very special. The more you screw around with it, the less clear and transparent and glowing that dark will be. And you can go back in with an accent or something like that if you need to. But it's like less is more. So don't worry about perfection on that. Worry more about hitting your dark right away with a good strong value. Janet and I are both more alla prima kind of painters, where we don't layer, especially, to achieve a darker or richer color. We just, hit it right away. If there's something that's not working, by all means, go back into it. But with darks, you're really on shaky ground if you manipulate them at all.
You have to stay transparent, though.
Except if you want to nail a little accent someplace or something. Yeah, that's what I was saying with my, my period where I was, trying to do the Wyeth stuff, and I never did have any instructions, so I was just, kind of going by what, learning by making mistakes, I guess would be the way to talk about it. The other thing is choice of pigments. So, in a longer workshop, I go through my palette. I did just a hint of that, I think, when we the first day. There are pigments that work really well in the sky. In fact, I'll flip to the other camera. There are pigments that work well in the sky, that granulate, and they're kind of more subtle colors, cerulean blue and yellow ochre, and cobalt blue. But those same colors, the cobalt blue you can use in a dark. It makes a different dark if you add it to, if you're making a dark blue and you want it to have a little more interest than just a Prussian blue, you can add it. It's a very transparent color, but it's not an especially dark color. So you can't make a real dark using cobalt blue and say some yellow. It just will not, it can't achieve a dark enough value to be a real dark. But the colors that you would use to make a dark are the ones that you would be less likely, I think, to use in the sky, which would be like French ultramarine, Prussian blue, Aurelian, yes, because it's transparent. New Gamboge, you can use that. You can use burnt sienna will work in a dark. The Quin Gold will work. The quinacridone, well, most of the quinacridone, I guess, the quinacridone violet will work in a dark. The colors you can't use are like the cerulean blue, yellow ochre, and any of the cadmium colors. All of those are heavy colors. And as soon as you use like a cad yellow to make a dark green, it'll turn muddy and flat and be really unattractive. So be aware of that. As I'm looking, I know I threw in some color up in here that when I put it in, it looked good. And I knew it wouldn't, actually it doesn't, it's not impossible, but I'll throw like a little smatter of cerulean blue or something in a dark, but I'm not mixing it in. And 9 times out of 10, it doesn't look all that good at the end. It looks real good when you put it in at first, but as soon as it dries real flat and doesn't really improve anything. So just be real careful about choice of color and how much you and how much you do or don't mess around with it. The more you mess around with it, the worse off it's going to be. And that's kind of the clue to it. If it's a small dark, like if you're putting some darks in the water, if there was a reason to put darks in the water and you've already put down a wash, it's not a problem if you did like with the lines or something where you would, if you wanted a really dark line or something like that, if it's a small dark. But if you have a chance to put dark in a larger area, much better to have that pure white paper, because otherwise what's underneath will, if you've got cerulean blue and colors underneath that are heavy colors, it will, it won't have the same impact as it does if you do it on white paper. So I was thinking at this point, I think I'm always kind of geared to, well, not always, but to a regular workshop where people, have to get home. And, so rather than, that's not necessarily going to be the case with this workshop, but if people fade out or if they have some other obligation or something like that. Anyway, and a lot of times people will come up and say, can we have the critique? Don't wait until the last minute to have the critique because, some people won't be here for it. So what I was going to do is, yeah.
This is Joe. Before we move on,
Hi, Joe.
Talk briefly about, so I can finish, what colors I might use for the rigging? Which I know how to use a rigger, sort of, so,
Okay, well, I can do it. Let me do it. I sort of was just thinking, well, I'll.
Well, that's fine. I just want to be able to finish it at some point and have a clue as to how. So I was
let me do a little then. Yeah, let me do a little because I just assume I want to do what you guys want and need.
Well, I think people really want the critique, so I really don't want to take from that, but
Okay, all right. Well, if we have time, because I was going to do that lesson too, but I can do it maybe on top of this. So if there's time at the end, I will actually get back in and paint that. For what I would use, it'd be, I wouldn't want to, all right, let me go right through it. On this piece here, the head stay, I usually make that darker, so some color that would.
You can't see.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry. Okay, so this is the head stay. These are two shrouds that come up. Those tend to be heavier, heavier rigging, I believe. There's some spreaders here and there's things off of that. And I don't usually, I eliminate a lot. And actually, visually, when we look out and actually look instead of, functioning as a camera, we don't see everything that's there. So you don't have to include it all. I would, like I did in that first painting, I would, pull those with the rigger, so it left, a broken line, because actually we tend to see line as a broken thing a lot of times, but some broken, some lighter and solid. Take the rigger brush and twist it so that they're not all the same dimension. And I would use, like for the darker ones, I would use like maybe the French ultramarine and something to gray it down with, so that it was more of a neutral gray, or like a dark, or almost like a black. But, be careful, don't make it too, make some of them prominent. But then some of them I would actually use like yellow ochre and maybe a little burnt sienna to make warm. You want, not only vary the value, but also the color temperature. So some more neutral, some a little cool, some a little warm, and like I said, I'll do the critique, and then whatever time's left over, I'll actually do that so that you don't get in trouble. There's a lot of things that I really need to do in here, but I'm not gonna, have you guys watch me finish the painting. So that's kind of why I was leaving it off at this point.
thanks, that was great.
Okay, all right.
Will you finish it and post it to our group though? That would be nice.
I can do that, absolutely.
I mean,
Yeah.
2 or 3 days from now, whenever you get around to it. So.
Yeah, no problemo. I will do that. And here's the finished painting, and I hope you guys like it. Here's our contact information, which is Steve at watercolorsbyrogers.com, Janet at watercolorsbyrogers.com, and the website is watercolorsbyrogers.com, where you should be able to find information on our upcoming online videos and workshops, as well as regular workshops. Thank you.